I think we're kind of splitting in certain ways. Obviously, Oculus with the Quest, that is the consumer end all be all. Nobody else is doing that, and it's kind of a shame because when HTC just announced their new stuff, I was fingers crossed somebody would compete with this kind of walled garden that Oculus has set up. It's accessible. It's easy for people. It's the Nintendo Wii of VR. It's relatively inexpensive, and because my neighbors, I got my new toy, so of course I had to show it off, and me and the neighbors would have beer and VR nights, and we'd go blast the zombies and things like that. Because of that, they've all got Quest 2s now because there's no way that they could afford a high-end PC. They couldn't afford an Index. Just it's so cost prohibitive with the high end things that I'm feeling that that's probably going to end up being a niche. I'm completely just talking off the top of my head. I could be completely wrong about this. Next week somebody could say, hey, we've got a PC driven headset that is price competitive with the Quest and doesn't have their walled garden, doesn't have their Facebook thing. Anybody can just jump on for a few $100. But I'm seeing this kind of divergence. And while I love Oculus as a company, I've obviously got issues with their parents. I do not like the Facebook acquisition of data. They're just a big Hoover machine. And unfortunately, what scares me the most is the eye tracking. That's coming, and I've read a few white papers about what eye movement and pupillary tracking could actually reveal about a person, and it's frightening.
I think I'm actually about to pull it up or trying to. Is that the white paper from I think it was Jason Leon, I believe was his name.
Oh, I
I might have
couldn't tell you, but that sounds right.
very good paper. I'll try to link that in the chat, guys, for anyone who hasn't seen it. But it's Jason Leon something on Twitter, and I feel terrible that I can't remember because I'm usually pretty good with names. Oh, found Jacob Leon Kroger.
Okay, yeah.
He had a great white paper on VR eye tracking. It's very accessible, very readable. I believe it's only like 12 pages, including
Okay,
sources. Really to the point. He separates eye tracking into 7 or 8 categories about how it can tell what you're looking at. Of course, it can tell cognitive load, so it could tell in a way when I say cognitive load, it can tell what you're thinking, the degree of what you're thinking, but it could be used as almost a literacy test. An employer could literally just look at eye tracking and determine how your brain's processing information and do some type of algorithm to determine your cognitive load and your ability to learn. It can determine sex, gender, sexual preferences, disease. So you can spin all this. I'm not calling you out. I'm saying someone could read this and spin it negatively. This is the end of times. This is precog. They're gonna know more about. I got the police coming to my door already because they say I'm going to commit a crime. You could go down that rabbit hole. You could go down the other rabbit hole. VR saved my life. I was playing VR and determined that I had early onset Alzheimer's already, and I'm going to have it within 2 years, and it could tell me that, and I could get ahead of it as much as I could. So I'm with you. It is very scary because it's a trust factor, but at the same time, it's information, and just like any information, could be good, could be bad. It's all going to be how it's used, and we just don't know, right?
It's a marketable commodity, and that's the scary thing because, like you had said, an employer could be using that information. What happens when somebody like my son, who has difficulty making eye contact, is being judged by the criteria that some HR rep is putting into VR usage? He might be denied either promotions or even potential positions simply because his instinct is to not look people in the eye, and whatever app he's using could determine that.
Yeah, that's
Um,
actually a really good point. I didn't think about that. And again, this goes down that rabbit hole of like what aboutisms. You know what I mean? We don't know what aboutisms, but if there's one thing I've learned, I'm 31 years old. There's one thing I've learned is while tech is amazing and can do wonders, it is anything but perfect. No algorithm will be a catch-all for everyone. If anything, every algorithm will hurt certain individuals, not on purpose, although there is a whole debate um, on how it's programmed. That there is those kind of conversations, um, but we don't know how it's going to be used. And if there's anything that detracts me from wanting it right away, is, for example, the whole Facebook ad situation. Not good or bad ads, but the lack of understanding how it's going to impact the consumer on the other end, where they're backtracking and saying, "Hey, we didn't word it right. We didn't do this right." It's like, that's neither here or there. Maybe that's true. Maybe you worded it right. Maybe you worded it wrong. But what we've learned from this is we are not all understanding how to move forward, which is fine. We're all learning. But that is going to come with the consequence of somebody. It always will be. And I just hope it's not me. I hope it's not your son. I hope it's not you. That's what we hope. You know what I mean?
Mhm. And I guess circling all the way back around, this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this, because if I can show that he's got something to contribute to the world, if there's something that he's able to bring forth, then his voice gets added to the discourse. It gets added to the dialogue where people are saying, okay, so this person might have a problem with this particular bit of data that's being collected. He can actually bring in a message that says, oh, you need to think about these people. Right now there's the big push with, inclusiveness, Me Too movement, everything else, getting those voices in so we all have a collective say. And
That's
I'm just over here in my little corner advocating for this one group of people. But
Hit that subscribe button to stay on top of the daily clips, or catch the debates and fireside chats live on the main channel down in the video description. See you next time, Space Cowboys.